If you have ever heard about Einstein, then I'm sure you know that he gained popularity with his famous theory of relativity. Now, considering that he was such a talented genius, we can naturally assume that it is a highly complicated scientific theory, which would be difficult to explain. Obviously. Wrong. The talented genius Einstein basically explained the concept of relativity like this. When you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. When you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours, right? That is relativity. And this is coming from someone who said to have brought about a scientific revolution and also won the Nobel Prize for physics because of that. So, that is Albert Einstein for you, the great mind. So his brilliance is not attributed as such only to his scientific genius, but to his simplicity and sheer wittiness. And surely by now, I think you must be interested to know a little more. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do in our session today. A truly beautiful mind is the topic that we will undertake further. But before we read the story, here's a little something about Einstein himself and where he came from. Now, Albert Einstein was a young German civil servant who took the world by storm about 100 years ago. In the summer of 1905, the 26-year-old then published 4 groundbreaking papers in quick succession. They were about light, the motion of particles, electrodynamics of moving bodies, and of course, energy. His work took up only a few pages in scientific journals, but it was also revolutionary that it changed our understanding of space, time, and the entire cosmos forever. It was his unmatched contribution to the field of science that made his name Einstein, which is synonymous with what we call a genius. On that note, let us read into the story A Truly Beautiful Mind and find out more about Einstein himself. A Truly Beautiful Mind. Albert Einstein was born on the 14th of March, 1879, in the German city of Ulm, without any indication that he was destined for greatness. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. To her, his head seemed too large, but at the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring. So the youngster played by himself much of the time. He especially loved mechanical toys. Looking at his newborn sister Maya, he is said to have said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession wouldn't matter because he'll never make a success at anything. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He went to a school in Munich where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old and scored good marks in almost every subject. Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled there that he left the school for good. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved into Milan and left their son with relatives. After a prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics, and after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus moustache. Now, he also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Maleva Marie, whom he found to be a clever creature. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines, those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. The couple fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. Wrote Einstein, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. He worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and finally secured a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. While he was supposed to be assessing other people's inventions, Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. He is said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E equals mc squared. In this mathematical equation, E of course stands for energy, m for mass, and c for the speed of light in a vacuum, about 3 lakh kilometers per second. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Albert had wanted to marry Maleva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. She thought Maleva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. She was also bothered by Maleva's intelligence. "She is a book like you," his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. Maleva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced. In 1919, Einstein married his cousin, Elsa, the same year. Now, the title of the story, A Truly Beautiful Mind, does it make you wonder why it is called so? Let's find out about the relevance of the title. Now, this story revolves around the life and works of the famous scientist Albert Einstein. Einstein could not speak till he was 2.5 years old. His mother thought that he was an abnormal child due to his huge head. To top it up, his playmates called him boring. His headmaster called him stupid, proclaimed that he would never be anything in life. In spite of receiving all these criticisms at such an early age, Einstein went on to win the Nobel Prize in Physics. Along with his famous theory of relativity, he brought revolution to the world of science. And when time came, nothing could deter him to enter politics to promote peace and democracy against the development of the nuclear weapons. So it won't be wrong to say that apart from being exceptionally intelligent, he was determined and more so compassionate. And isn't that a mark of someone who possesses, well, what I'd like to say, a truly beautiful mind? Tutormate. For more amazing video lectures, download the free app on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store.